Let's read today Measuring Forces, page 84. Okay, your challenge. Explore the forces needed to move an object across a surface. Plan a fair test. Measure and record forces in newtons. Alright, so what we are going to learn today is how to measure forces. Of course, you can use your highlighter to highlight the important sentences or words. Now, Hania watched her brother pulling his toy truck. The more blocks he put in his truck, the harder it was to make it move. Hania wondered why this was so. She decided to investigate. Now, what do? Hania found an empty dish and tied it to a force meter. She put the dish on the kitchen table and gently pulled on the force meter until the dish moved. She wrote down the force needed to make the dish move. Hania added 5 marbles to the dish to make it heavier. Each time she added more marbles, she noted how much force was needed to move the dish. Now, this is an experiment. I'm going to do it later. You need a plastic dish and a string and a force meter and several masses or marbles. Now, I don't have a force meter, but I'm going to use a dish and some weights to see if it gets more difficult to move the dish across the table with a heavier weight. Okay? Now, try it yourself. Hania measured the force when the dish first started to move. Will it do the same? What surface will you do the experiment on? Use a force meter if you have one. What do you think will happen? So, if it's a smooth surface, it will move faster. If it is a rough surface, it will move slower. Okay? Now, Hania made a table of her results. So, this is a table of what she did, experiment. When there are 0 marbles, how much force was needed to move the dish? And when there was 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 marbles, what was the force? Now, remember, this force is in newtons. Okay? Now, Hania noticed that with more marbles in the dish, the reading on the force meter was higher. That means if the dish is heavier, more force is needed to move the dish. She thought that a heavier dish needed more force to start it moving along the surface of the table. Now, this one is use a spreadsheet. We don't normally do this, so I'm going to move on. Now predict. What do you think would happen if Hania changed the container she used? Does the size of the container make a difference? How much force is needed to move it? Do you think her results would be different if she did the experiment on a carpet? Why? Hania took a few marbles out of the dish. What do you think happened? So, to answer these questions, of course it would make a difference if the surface was different. It will move faster on a smoother surface. It will move slower and it will become more difficult to move the dish if the surface is rough because of friction. Okay, so yes, it will make a difference if her results will be different if she does the experiment on the carpet because the surface is different, the friction and the force needed is different. Alright, so this is the topic that we are going to read and we have read now, and then I'm going to show you in the next video. I will show you the experiment. Okay, you can see I have got a glass plate. I am going to put some weight on it and try and move it across the table to see if it will move. Now I'm going to start with one weight, alright, and see. Alright, when I move it across the table, it is smoother. Alright, how if I add more weight? Okay, I need more force to pull it. Alright, now I'm going to add some more weight. I'm going to make it heavier. So of course I can feel I need more force to pull the plate. Alright, so as I go on adding more weights, the force that is needed to pull the plate, because the plate is heavier, becomes a little bit more difficult. Now the same thing if I use a different material or a different thing like a plastic. This is a glass plate I have used. Now I'm going to use a plastic box and put the weights and see if I'm going to it's going to be more difficult or less difficult to move across the table. Now I'm going to first put the remote, okay, all right, and move it. Yeah, it's lighter, it's faster. All right, now then I'm going to add more weight. Yes, as it becomes heavier, it becomes more difficult. All right, some more weight. Yeah, okay, more difficult. And let's see with more weight. So as it becomes heavier, and as you can, I can feel, okay, if you try this, you can feel that with glass it was smoother, right? With plastic it's a bit more difficult to move. Of course, this is a smaller plate, this is a big box, so it made a difference. It was easier to put the things in the bigger box, but then with the plastic it was pulling. With the glass it was sliding smoothly because my table is also glass, so it was sliding smoothly because of less friction. So you can try this experiment and see how much force. Of course, I don't have a force meter, so I cannot measure in newtons, but I can feel when I move the plate or I move the box, I can feel the amount of force that is needed. Okay.